Alright you guys, here we are, another update on our worm bin. I wasn't going to do one this week because I know I'd been feeding them quite a bit, and last week when we did our update we had quite a bit of food left over, which is why we have mites, which you can see all of this right here on the sides are mites, which is caused by having too much food in your food bin, and then the mites will come and eat the food as well with the worms. They compete with the worms for the food. So that's one of the symptoms of overfeeding your bin. And then also moisture, being too moist, which feeling at the top it doesn't feel like it's too moist, but when you get down in here it is quite wet. So I just figured I would do a little video on some of the hazards and difficulties of beginning worm harvesting or worm composting is overfeeding them, which I knew I had been overfeeding them, but figured I would give this little warning of the mites and what it is, what they are. I peeked in here the other day just to make sure everything is still looking good, and I saw them all over. And after a little research, I got an answer from Tenth Acre Farm, I think is what it is, or Tenth Acre Homestead, something like that, garden, somewhere along those lines. She had a great blog post that she did about beginning mistakes on worm bins, and it had a lot to do with overfeeding, and the mites were one of them listed on there. So thanks to her over there, I got the answer to my question on what was going on. And that it's the mites, so it'll be a couple weeks before I feed them. I'll probably check on them once a week again, still in a week, just to make sure everything's doing good and doing well. But it sounds like the mites are here due to the excessive amount of food I've been feeding them. I knew last week when I fed them that I was going to be skipping feeding this week because of how much food they still had. So not too much of a shock that that's what they're from. I knew I was overfeeding and going to be taking a break from giving them some food so they can work through what we have in here. But it was kind of just a surprise to see the mites in there. I didn't know what was going on. So like I said, after a little research, I figured out that it was mites and it was just from the overfeeding. So I figured I'd make a quick little video on that here so I can share that with other people, and if they have run into the same problem, they can find a solution quickly and find an answer as to what is going on quickly and work to correct it and get rid of those mites then. So that's what we're going to be doing here. We're going to let these worms work on all this food that they have the overabundance of, and go from there, and we'll update you again next time. But as you can see here, as I try to zoom in, on the side of the bin, it kind of just looks like sand or something like that. So it's really just fine grain. You see. But see, you can just see it looks like grains of sand on the side of it, and those are mites. So that's what that is. If you're seeing that in your bin and you're not sure what's going on, it's mites that are joining your worms in your bin to eat the food in there because there's too much. So when the food level goes back down to what it should be after they've eaten through what's in the bin, they should be eliminated then and go away. So just to give you an idea on what mites look like from overfeeding your bin, this is what it would be, and just figured I would help educate anybody else that might be looking for some answers on this. So I'm going to probably go ahead and add some bedding to this as well, since it is so wet. I will use some more bedding to help dry this up a bit. Then I'll get this bin closed back up and I'll check back in with everybody again next week.